Tyrese Haliburton, Pascal Siakam, Naismith, Nembhard, Miles Turner. The Indiana Pacers are scary. I could have listed like 5 more players. That's how deep their team is. Usually in the playoffs, teams have smaller rotations, but not the Pacers. They have a roster that is stacked with players that can all defend, all can shoot, all can make plays. So how did this team fly under the radar for so long? The Pacers actually shifted the direction of their franchise at the 2022 trade deadline when they sent their all-star center Sabonis to the Sacramento Kings in a package centered around Haliburton. At the time, everybody knew that the Pacers had won the trade. Nobody could believe that the Kings would just give up Haliburton. Now, I understand why the Kings made the trade. They already had a great point guard in De'Aaron Fox, but everybody could see that Haliburton was the type of player that could elevate everyone around him. And the Pacers saw this too. They believed that he was the type of player that you could build around. So, over the next few years, they went and picked up complementary players that best suited Haliburton's skill set. The day that the Pacers traded for Haliburton, they were in 13th place in the East, 19 wins, 37 losses. And in his first full season the following year, Indiana finished with 35 wins and 47 losses. And already in that 2022-2023 season, Haliburton appeared in 35 clutch games. And in those, he shot 40% from the field, 31% from three-point range. He also averaged nearly 1 assist to 0.1 turnovers in those situations. And the Pacers won 20 of those games. So even early on, you could see that he had the potential to be a really clutch player. And although he did miss his fair share of clutch shots, he was making enough of them to have an impact on winning. Haliburton plays fast. In fact, he's one of the fastest players in the NBA. So the Pacers surrounded him with other fast players that could catch his passes and shoot threes. As you can see from the Pacers taking the postseason by storm, the results have paid off incredibly. Considering they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2024, you would think that they would have gotten much more recognition. But actually, a lot of people felt that their run was simply a lucky run where they faced teams that were banged up. Because at the beginning of the season, no one had the Pacers circled as a real threat in the East. They were young. They were talented, sure, but they were also inexperienced. Most people expected them to fight for a play-in spot at best, but inside the Pacers locker room, the belief was different. And from the get-go, they showed that they believed they were a much better team than what people gave them credit for. They played fast, fun basketball. Haliburton ran the show like a seasoned veteran. He threw flashy assists, he knocked down clutch shots, and he lifted his teammates up with every play. He played like a point guard that had been in the league for a decade. But even with his brilliance, Indiana was missing something, a second star. Well, that all changed in January when the front office made a very bold move. They traded for Pascal Siakam. It was the biggest trade the Pacers had made in years. Siakam was an all-star. He was an NBA champion. He was someone that had shown that he could be the face of a franchise. So imagine getting a player of that quality to be the second star on your team. He instantly gave the team more muscle on defense, more movement on offense, and a second option when Haliburton wasn't on the floor. It was like adding fuel to a fire that was already starting to burn. Because Siakam is so good that at times he needs 2 players on him. But now you can't double Siakam because Haliburton can shoot and so can everyone else on the floor. That move made it very clear to the rest of the league that the Pacers were serious. They weren't just here to be a fun team that helped create cool highlights that look good on Instagram. They wanted to compete. With Siakam in the lineup, the Pacers hit another gear. They had an identity. They were the team that played fast, passed the ball with purpose, and didn't care about who scored. One night it was Haliburton going off. Another night it was Siakam. Sometimes it was Miles Turner or Naismith, as we have seen in the 2025 playoffs. This is exactly what makes the Pacers so tough to beat, because you don't know who's going to be the one that causes you the most damage. Throughout the playoffs, we've seen everybody have an iconic night. Now, by the end of the 2024 regular season, Indiana finished with 47 wins and 35 losses, the 6th seed in the East. So they were able to avoid the play-in tournament entirely. It was their best record since 2019, but they weren't even done yet. In the first round, they took on the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, even without Giannis, most experts pick Milwaukee to win, but Indiana had other ideas. They played with energy, they played together, and they stunned the Bucks in just 5 games. Haliburton was a beast, and Siakam looked like he'd been with the team for years. The Pacers just had too much offensive firepower and speed for the Bucks. Without Giannis, the Bucks looked old in comparison, and it looked like the new generation taking on the Unks. In the second round, they beat the Knicks in a grueling 7-game series. In Game 1, Brunson put on a fourth quarter masterclass. 21 points in the final quarter, 43 in total. The Pacers fought back with a monster effort from their bench, who actually outscored New York's bench 46-3, but the Knicks held on. Indiana walked off the court knowing they could hang, but that they need more. Well, in game 3, they got it. Haliburton exploded for 35 points and 7 assists, but it was actually Nembhard who became the hero, drilling a deep 31-foot three-pointer with just 16 seconds left to seal the win. The series was alive again, and so were the Pacers. Game 4 was a complete domination by them. They crushed the Knicks from the tip to the buzzer, leading by as many as 43 points. Haliburton cruised to a casual 20 points, Nesmith got 12 boards, and the Pacers played like a unit. The series was tied 2-2, but the momentum had shifted. In game 6, with their backs against the wall, the Pacers didn't even blink. Siakam took over with 25 points, and the team stayed unbeaten at home, forcing a game 7. It was clear now, both teams had heart and were willing to fight till their last breath, but unfortunately, only one team can be left standing. And in game 7 in the Garden, it wasn't a battle, it was a blowout. The Pacers played nearly perfect basketball, shooting 67.1% from the field. Haliburton led the charge with 26. The Knicks, meanwhile, were crumbling, and the final blow to them came when Jalen Brunson fractured his hand and left the game in pain. The Pacers took it all, and were now in the Eastern Conference Finals. But even at this point, they weren't getting a lot of respect. Many felt they only beat Milwaukee because Giannis was out, and the Knicks were dealing with a ton of injuries too. Julius Randle missed the entire playoffs. OG was brilliant until his hamstring gave out in game 2. Josh Hart, the heart of their hustle, couldn't go in game 6. And then of course Jalen Brunson, the face of the franchise, broke his hand in game 7. The Pacers ended up getting swept by the Celtics in the Eastern Conference, but even that matchup was very close. If the Pacers had a bit more experience and calmness, they could have easily taken that series. Now, while the rest of the NBA world thought the Pacers run was a fluke, Rick Carlisle and the team knew that they had made a lot of progress. Haliburton was showing superstar potential. Siakam showed his worth even though he came in mid-season, and the whole team showed that they were no longer underdog. Well, that message became loud and clear in the 2025 season. The Pacers went from being this fun young team that everyone thought overachieved to real contenders. They dominated through the regular season, 50 wins, their best regular season in over a decade, and the league had no choice but to pay attention. But keep in mind, they still weren't getting respect. I mean, the face of their franchise was voted as the most overrated player in the NBA. But to those who were paying attention, you could see how good they were. It wasn't just about their numbers, it was how they played. The ball moved so fast, everyone got a touch. Then on defense, they were wearing you down all game. TJ McConnell would pick up your point guard full court. Naismith and Nembhard would harass you in the passing lanes. Playing these guys for 48 minutes was like getting your teeth pulled out by your dentist. Then when the postseason hit, the Pacers looked like a team on a mission. They destroyed the Bucks again. Even with a healthy Giannis this time, they couldn't stop the Pacers' speed. Look at game 1. Giannis dropped 36 points, but nobody else on the Bucks could help him. Meanwhile, the Pacers had multiple players with double-digit points. Siakam led the way with 25, but Miles Turner had 19. Nembhard had 17. Mathurin had 13. McConnell had 11. And even Haliburton did what he does best, scoring and playmaking. He put up a nice double-double. In game 2, they continued their dominance. Siakam set the tone again, dropping 24 points and grabbing 11 boards. He was everywhere, getting to the rim, hitting mid-range jumpers. Bit of a tangent, but I love Pascal Siakam. As a Raptors fan, I've seen this guy's entire journey, from someone who could barely dribble the basketball to taking over games in the postseason to becoming an NBA champion. I'm always gonna root for him. And then of course on top of Siakam, Haliburton was steady as ever. He added another 21 points and 12 assists. The Pacers moved the ball, played with speed, and made the Bucks chase shadows. They did win game 3, but that's the only win they would get in that series. The next round was even more impressive though. The Pacers destroyed the Cavs. Like, think about this. The Cavs had a historic regular season in 2025. They had multiple players make the All-Stars. They had the Defensive Player of the Year. They had one of the best players in the league, period, in Donovan Mitchell. They had also dominated the Miami Heat the series before, so they had plenty of rest. Everyone thought that it was going to be a showdown between the Cavs and the Celtics for who comes out of the East. But the Pacers had other plans. They took a 2-0 lead, winning both games in Cleveland, which nobody expected. There were some people who thought the Pacers might win, but everybody said it was going to be in 7. Meanwhile, the Pacers had come in and it looked like it was going to be a sweep. Now, of course, people will point out that the Cavs were in fact injured. In one game, Mobley, Garland, and Hunter were all missing. But to be honest with you, I think the Pacers would have won the series anyways. Because even in the games that the Cavs did have all their guys, they just couldn't keep up with the tempo. And that's what happens against the Pacers. What's worse is that the longer the series goes, the more you will be run down. The full court pressing, the constant threes, chasing down Haliburton, Siakam, McConnell. Playing at that rapid pace for weeks is exhausting. And these guys are good good both offensively and defensively. They don't have a player that you can pick on. Even if you try an ISO on Haliburton, he can hold his own. Then they have good perimeter defenders, but they also have rim protectors. They can rain threes on you, but they can also get easy buckets in the paint. But their main thing is speed. With and without the ball, they're just constantly going at 100 kilometers per hour. And as I stated earlier in the video, this was the Pacers' whole plan when they got Haliburton. He's the engine, the spark, the guy who always seems to make the right decision at the right time. We've seen how clutch he can be. The buzzer beater against the Knicks was just one of many moments where Haliburton has shined the most when the lights were the brightest. Then next to him, they got Andrew Nembhard, who's the point man on the Pacers' full court press. Another player that can shoot, that can defend. Then they also have Nesmith, a player that we saw against the Knicks can turn into a flamethrower at any time. I've already raved about Pascal Siakam, but remember, when he came to Indiana, a lot of people weren't sure what to expect. Could he still be that go-to guy from his Toronto days? Well, it turns out, yes he can. He's brought everything that the Pacers needed. He has playoff experience, he can score, and he has the ability to guard multiple positions. We saw it all in action in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. In the middle of a roaring Madison Square Garden, Siakam's game spoke louder than any words ever could. He was everywhere. Post-up, fast breaks, fadeaways. He gets buckets ethically, unlike Jalen Brunson. Every time the New York crowd tried to lift their team, Siakam answered with a silencer. It was a performance that screamed, "There's a reason I'm an NBA champion, buddy." And that's really been the spirit of the Pacers team all season. They play unselfish, united, and always ready to let the hot hand cook. On that night, the hand belonged to Siakam. Then of course you have Miles Turner, who isn't always flashy, but ask any Pacers fan. He's the backbone of the defense. Every time an opponent drives to the hoop, Turner is there, contesting, blocking, just making life difficult. But what's great about him is he's not just a shot blocker. He actually stretches the floor with his shooting. That mix of rim protection with an offensive skill set makes him one of the most valuable big men in the entire league. Then of course what makes the Pacers so good is how good their bench is. You got so many X factors. TJ McConnell leads the bench unit, and he's your typical old-fashioned point guard. Always makes the right read. He's a pass first guy that can score. He makes life miserable for the opposition point guard. And then you have Benedict Mathurin. He can either get ejected or drop 25. There's no in between. Great player on his day. And then of course you have Shepherd and Obi Toppin, who give you so much energy. I mean, Obi Toppin is an athletic freak. This guy can jump over anybody. Rick Carlisle has shaped this Pacers team into something special. They're not leaning on superstars alone, although they have them now. Instead, they have built a group that trusts each other completely. They play smart, unselfish basketball. The ball doesn't stick to just one pair of hands. It moves player to player, always finding the open man. There's no egos in this group, just heart and hustle, and a clear sense of purpose every time they step on the court. They know their identity. They know what type of team they are. They know what makes them so dangerous is their depth and versatility. Pretty much everyone on the roster can play more than one position. If an opponent tries to go small, Indiana adjusts. If the game gets physical, they can easily match it. No matter the style, the Pacers have a lineup ready to respond. Add in the fact that they can now stay cool when the pressure's the highest, and you get a recipe for success. Haliburton has become their closer, the guy who wants the ball when the game is on the line. Whether he's creating for others or pulling up himself for a deep three, he steps up in the biggest moments. Now, to see how he went from being labeled as the most overrated star in the league to one of the best players, you have to check out this video right here.